And I got 104.
95.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I win. Good game.
Good job, dude. Good job.
Yeah. You all right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way this park came out. I like the it's got a cool flow, and I feel like I don't know, it looks good. Just, it'd be cool if this park was real. It'd be cool to be able to walk around.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
This is Barenpark. Hi everybody, my name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the brothers Murph, and I have spent basically all of my free time for the last 3 months working on a really weird and ridiculous project. A couple of months ago, I decided to take on the task of trying to recreate a finished board in the game Barenpark here in Planet Zoo. I am a massive Planet Zoo fan. I'm also a massive Barenpark fan. And here we are a couple months later and about 50 to 60 hours of work later, and it's done. And we have a finished Barenpark board here in Planet Zoo. So very quickly, in case you are unfamiliar with the game Barenpark is a tile-laying tabletop game where you will be building out a bear zoo. The game is played with these polyomino Tetris-like tiles, and you'll be putting them out in a grid on your board, trying to score the most points. In this game, there are 4 different kinds of bears: polar bears, panda bears, Gobi bears, and koala bears. And we've said it a million times, koala bears are not bears, they are lizards. But the person who designed this game, a wonderful man named Phil Walker Harding, is from Australia, so we'll give him the koala bears. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look around. Now in this video, I'm not going to be going into a ton of detail on the park about how I made it or my thought process behind it, because honestly, it would just make this video way too long. But I did make a video where I really go into detail and really spend time talking about my thought process and some of the difficulties and all of that kind of stuff. And that video is over on our Patreon. Now, I do want to say that the video is free for everyone. We just didn't want it here on our YouTube channel and have 2 Barenpark videos right back to back. And so we decided to put it over on our Patreon. Again, it is free. You do not need to be a Patreon supporter to watch that video, but just know that it lives over there. So if you like this video and want a much more in-depth look at it, please go over to our Patreon and check it out. The first place we have is our entrance right here, this big yellow building right here. And this building here is actually our entrance. The guests spawn right down there, and we have our welcome to Barenpark kind of display right here. And so this is the entrance. It's pretty simple. We got some billboards here. It says explore the wonderful world of Barenpark, and this is the game cover right here. And then we just have some other bear art right there. And then over here we of course have praise be, because we always praise be to Phil Walker Harding. This is the gentleman who designed the game, and he makes great games. We always praise be to Phil Walker Harding. And again, we just have some simple decorations. Most of the inside of the buildings are pretty simple. What's this? Hold on. Super secret room of secretive secrets of secrecy. Keep out. Well, we gotta check it out. What's in here? Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like the video. And share it too. Oh, Planet Zoo, you're crazy. So one thing I did is I kind of wanted to show on the finished Barenpark board, which is this one right here, I wanted to show kind of where you are. So these are kind of throughout the whole park because you can put billboards in this game and put your own images on them, which is super cool. So we are here right at the entrance. You can see the big yellow Barenpark building. We're right there. We're right there. So let's go ahead and head out of the entrance. Right over here, we just have a little bit of viewing gallery. Hello, hello. Look at the hips. Look at the hips on that one. You sway, young man. You sway those hips. So we have a little bit of just kind of like a decorative area. And then this area over here is actually one of my favorite areas in the whole game. I decided to create this kind of like alleyway, and there's a bunch of animals playing a game of Stop Thief, which is one of my favorite games. These are all animal statues, and they're in this kind of like weird alley. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. So first up, we have the koala house. So this right here is all one habitat for koalas. And I also put up these signs at most of the habitats that show where you actually are and what the tile actually looks like. So this is an L, kind of your classic Tetris L tile, and it's this big thatched roof kind of area. So you can see that right here. So you can see it's one big L. I ended up doing a dome, kind of like a big glass dome over here instead of just like a squared off part, because I thought it was prettier and I thought it looked really cool. And then right inside here is just a big old climbing area, because koalas like to climb. They just like to climb around. And then down the ends here are just more climbing areas, because it really is an absurdly large area. One thing about this whole zoo, it is very, very large, and all of these exhibits and habitats are also incredibly large, really much, much larger than any of these animals actually need. Oh yeah, there's one. Hey, hello, buddy. Hey, friend. You being cute? Okay. All right, so next up we have one of the food streets. So now this is the area that I changed the tile the most. Everything else, I tried to keep it relatively similar to the tile and at least really keep the spirit of the tile there, even though it didn't really work in this environment. The food streets are where I really changed stuff, because you can see the food street tile is basically one road, a bunch of grass, a couple trees, a couple things like that, and then 3 food stores, and then looks like a vending machine and a kid that's getting murdered by balloons. So I decided to change it instead. And what we did instead was make half of it this kind of glass enclosed food court. And this just has like, I don't know, like 60 food places, just a ridiculous, obnoxious amount of food places. And then the other side here is kind of like a really pretty, just like arboretum, just a place where you can kind of walk around. We got a nice little, a nice little creek right here. Nothing fancy, just because I didn't need like another 60 places to eat over here. So I decided to do this. And because I am a master of subtlety and wit, I just wrote food on top of it. So that's the first food street. So now we'll go ahead and get into these terrifying, terrifying things. Now you might think, Nick, why did you make horrendous, horrifying, large bare bathrooms? Well, it's because the bathroom tiles, well, at least one of the bathroom tiles, looks like this. They're bare bathrooms. Bare bathrooms. And so I had to make bare bathrooms. This was very confusing for me and very difficult to do in this game, because as customizable as this game is, you're not really meant to make giant bare bathrooms, but we made it work. And there's not much else to say about them. I made them and I am proud of them. The bathrooms are also enormous, because again, this is supposed to be one tile, and in the picture there is one bathroom in that tile, which means this bathroom would be about this tall. It would be gargantuan, and that would be one bathroom, and that just didn't make sense. So this is an area where I kind of tried to stay true to the spirit of the tile by making the bare bathrooms, but I basically changed everything else. And honestly, as ridiculous as these are, I mean, that's what the tile looks like, so I'm pretty happy with them. I'm actually pretty proud of them, despite the fact that they're kind of terrifying. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into our first enclosure, and this is a panda enclosure. In the game, there are animal houses and then animal enclosures. Animal houses are 4 tiles, 1, 2, 3, 4 long, and animal enclosures like this one are always 5 long. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and we are visiting this panda enclosure, which is over here. So this one again is very, very large, and you have a little way of getting up into here, and we just have a nice kind of like decorated area. We have a, a nice little, a little panda garden right here, and then this one is completely open to the air. There's no glass here because the pandas can't breach this gap right here. And so you can go out and look at the pandas. And usually there's a couple climbing around in here, but of course, once I have company, no one shows up because they want to embarrass me. And then we have some more billboards. This one right here shows some panda information, and those are part of the game. And then over here, of course, we have Panda Angel lives here. My good friend Panda Angel, of course she would live here. It makes just only all of the sense. And so we can go ahead and we have their little sleeping cave, and there's about 1 billion of them in here. Oh my gosh, look at them. Look at their little faces. Look at this little baby one. Look at it. So that's one indoor area, and then we have another indoor area over here. This is all the same enclosure, and then this is the staff entrance. And this right here, we just have a bunch of windows and kind of a lightly decorated area. All of the indoor areas, I did very basic decorating. I might go back through and really decorate the insides of these. Oh, hey there, Keeper. What are you doing? You being cool? All right, brother. I might come back here and decorate the rest of these. I'm not entirely sure. We'll kind of see, but I kept the indoors of them pretty darn simple. And again, there is just more and more habitat over here. And this area right here with the pond, I actually think is probably the prettiest part of the whole park. I think this area came out really, really nice with the pond. You got your little panda family right here. I don't know. I think this area looks really nice, and I think this would be a very popular viewing area if this were a real zoo. And then next to our bathrooms in our panda enclosure, we have another one of these signs that says "You are here," and you can see, boom, we are right here in this tile. So we've seen kind of all of this, and we are right here. So now what we are next to is, it's up in the sky here, but is our first bear statue. In the game, whenever you fill out every spot on a tile, and this spot right here is one tile, this right here is another board, not a tile, a board. So this is one board, that's another board, that's another board, that's another board. When you fill in every spot on the board, with the exception of the last spot, you get to put in a golden bear statue. And so these are the golden bear statue tiles, and they are worth a lot of points, in this case 16, and they always have a golden bear on them. So on those bear statue tiles, there's different art on a lot of them, but it's always the same kind of bear. And so in this zoo, what I wanted to do is have one of each different kind of bear. So in this case, we have the koala bear, we have the Gobi bear, we have the panda bear, and then we have the polar bear. And so we have the koala bear here, who is on a big tree branch. So this is actually where I'm going to stop real quick, and I'm going to explain quickly how I actually made these, because it's kind of weird and unique, especially for Planet Zoo. As far as I know, I've never seen someone else do this, but it's kind of a weird way. So I'm going to pop over to like a test zoo where I actually made these to show you how I made them. So this is the kind of test area. You can see this is where I was messing around with some stuff. This is also where I first made the path grid, and again, the grid is all made out of paths. I originally made it smaller. We decided to go much bigger, which might not have been a good idea. But here's also where I made all of the bear statues. Now, the bear statues are interesting because I made them out of terrain. In this game, you can sculpt the terrain. So you can do all sorts of stuff. You can like pull the terrain up and push the terrain down and like flatten it all out and do a whole bunch of different stuff. You can add water, you can do a whole bunch of different stuff to the terrain. And so when I was trying to figure out how the heck to make these, I realized that I think I can make them out of terrain and essentially sculpt them as if I'm sculpting them out of clay. So you can see here, let's go ahead and move this panda aside. That is the panda. And then I put the pieces on the outside. Same with the koala here. We can go boop. So we have the terrain here, and then I can go ahead and use these construction pieces, which are kind of like basic just shapes. And I can then put align to surface on, and what that does is it aligns it to whatever surface it's on, and it'll change its direction. And so then I can just go boop, boop, and just do this and cover the entire thing with these, except for, yellow for gold, and just do this for about 3 hours, and 5,000 pieces later, and you end up with one of these. And yeah, that's how I made them. Who would have thunk? So that's how I made them. So yeah, you know, it worked. If it works, it works, you know? All right, so over to the next tile here, we have our playground. So this is the tile that I am probably the most proud of because there are no playgrounds in Planet Zoo. And so I had to completely construct this one from scratch and just kind of try and figure it out myself and make it look like a playground because again, there's no playground. So I basically had to just make it work. And so our play structure I built completely from scratch. Everything in this zoo is actually built from scratch. I didn't use any pre-builds of anything. And I kind of just made a thing that looks like a playground. Guests can't interact with this in any way. It's literally just here for show. But I'm actually really proud of this because none of this is really supposed to be used this way, but you can make anything in this game. It's really incredible. And I kind of topped it all off by making like a fake rock climbing wall, which I think is really, really cool. Again, a lot of times like parks and like, you know, jungle gym areas have like a rock climbing wall. And so we made ropes and stuff and made it look like this is something that exists. And there's like supports on the back because, you know, it's a fake rock climbing wall. So it would need supports. And this is, I don't know, I think this is cool. I think it's rad. And then the other side here is just essentially like paths up in the trees. My brother Mike, who doesn't play Planet Zoo, but he was the one kind of giving me a lot of the ideas for this. I didn't know what to do with the other half of this. So he was like, dude, just make some cool like Swiss Family Robinson type tree houses and like tree paths. And so I basically just made a big kind of jungle tree path that I think kids and families can like walk through to have kind of like a chill area and make it look like really, really cool and fun. And honestly, as a kid, I would live in this area. This is the only area I'd want to be. I'd want to be up in the trees and stuff. And I don't know, it just turned out cool. I really like the playground tile. I think oh my gosh, I'm in the trees. I think it came out pretty darn cool and I like it a lot. So now we have another koala house. So now this koala house here is exactly the same as that one. There is absolutely no difference. I just copy and pasted them literally. And so there's no difference. They're the same because there's no point in me doing it twice. So we'll go ahead and go into the first panda house. Again, we looked at a panda enclosure, but this is the panda house and this is that kind of Tetris Z shape. So boop, boop, boop. See that? You can think of that as a tile. That's what it is. So we're here at the entrance. Again, I like this little kind of garden area over here, but you can see we are here and this is the tile that we are visiting. You can see again, it's that Tetris Z. And I actually really like these ones. They look very, very odd, but I think they just, I don't know, I think they work and they're kind of weird, but I like them. And then inside there is again a lot of lush gardens. There's a whole bunch of like climbing areas. You know, all these bears really like their climbing areas, and we have a big sleeping area so that they can sleep in here. And then over on this side, they have their nice little pool so they can swim around and, you know, I don't know, get a little exercise. I don't know. Do pandas swim for exercise? Probably not. And then inside over here, we have yet again another just viewing area. This is on this side. And then over here where it takes a bend, we have one more little viewing area. And again, just nice little area. Put all the enrichment items and stuff in front of here so the pandas will hopefully be there. And look at that. One's right there getting some food from this, just chewing on it. Look at that cutie. Oh, look at you. Look at you just chomping away. So now we'll go over here to the Gobi bear enclosure. So again, this is one of the big ones that's 5 squares big. And this is a big Gobi bear enclosure that has these really cool windows on the side. I don't know. I just really like the pattern. Now you might be thinking, if you play Planet Zoo, like, Nick, there's no Gobi bears in Planet Zoo. Oh my gosh. And that is true. But we have kind of a replacement that's close enough. So this is an area that I did have to change because there are no Gobi bears in Planet Zoo. So we have one of our Did You Know boards. It says, in Barenpark, the board game, one of the animals is the Gobi bear, which is the most endangered bear in the world. They live up in the Gobi bear in Mongolia. But Gobi bears aren't in Planet Zoo. So in this zoo, we use the Himalayan brown bear. They're both brown bears. They're floofy and they both live in Asia. And they look enough alike that I was like, you know what, we'll go ahead and use the Himalayan brown bears. They are not Gobi bears, but Gobi bears weren't in the game, and I didn't want to not do this project just because one bear wasn't in it. When we had a bear from a similar-ish region, Himalayan brown bears are usually found, I believe, in Pakistan, you know, which is not the same region as Mongolia necessarily, but it was close enough in terms of the way they looked in the general region, at least the continent that they're on, that we decided to go ahead and use them. So, you know, we have a big old foresty, just really nice foresty habitat that has just one big old climbing area that kind of goes throughout the whole enclosure that I really like. And it's just kind of a big forest. They like a lot of trees and they like to be hidden. And then I have their little sleeping area right here where they're all asleep and being real cute and floofy like. And then the upstairs area is just very, very simple. We have a little food area over here and we just have a bunch of benches and a bunch of tables. This area is really, really big and I just didn't really know what to do with it. So I kept it really simple. We have another Did You Know? It says, the original idea for this project was suggested by our chat during a live stream on Twitch, which is very, very true. One of our chatters was like, hey, you should try and make Barenpark and Planet Zoo. And I was like, that's interesting. And yeah, so that's the enclosure. Pretty cool. And then next to this one, we have our Panda Bear statue, and we have another Did You Know? Said that this big hungry panda took over 3,500 pieces to make. That's true. It took a long time. All those statues took a very, very, very long time. So we have another You Are Here. You can see on the board, we are right here by the Himalayan brown bear habitat and right by the first river tile. Although this one, we are using more like a lake. So the water tiles are pretty simple. This lake tile doesn't really have much going on because again, in the tile in the game, there's not really anything around. There's not any trees or anything, but we did decide to put a cool waterfall here and have another one of the river tiles kind of go into the lake on the bottom. And this was a really cool idea that was thought up by my brother Mike. Said Barenpark Zoo was constructed by Nick. That's me. And he's the one who plays Planet Zoo, but most of the ideas or many of the ideas in the zoo were thought of by Mike, including this awesome 3-tiered river into a lake. And so you can go ahead and you can see the tile, how it is on the board, boom, boom, and then down into the lake. And you can kind of see that reflected right there. I actually really like this. Again, they're very simple, but I just think they look nice. I really like the water features in this game. I think they're really, really effective with the way they make it look like the water is moving. Spoilers, the water is not moving. It's all just sitting here. These are just water effects that make it look like it's moving. And I don't know, this area I think is really, really cool. And Mike was really like, you should do this tiered, waterfall thing. It'll look really, really cool. And he was dead right. It looked really awesome. And then next to the lake down here on the bottom, we have our second kind of bathroom. In the game, the bathrooms work the same. It's just one square tile, but they have two different kinds of art. In this case, this is this one, which is kind of like a thatched roof looking one. So I decided to make it like a beachy vibe. I don't know. There's like 18 bathrooms in here. It's a ridiculous amount of bathrooms. No one needs that many, but I decided to put sand around it and some like chairs and stuff and make it look like it's a cool little, it's got a little beachy vibe right here. And then here we have another bathroom and another panda house. Again, this panda house is exactly the same as the other panda house. It's just copy and pasted, but we do have another You Are Here. And again, we're right here at the corner. So we can swing along the barren outside of this whole thing and come over to another one of the bear statue and another Did You Know? And this is kind of what I already showed you, but the gold statues in Barenpark Zoo were sculpted with terrain and then gold pieces were placed on the outside. This is actually the first one I did. I think it's arguably the worst, but it was also the first one. It kind of looks like a pig, but what are you gonna do? It's the first time, I wasn't very good at it yet. And then over here we have the other Himalayan brown bear. This one is an animal house, not an enclosure. And on the side here we have a big billboard that says, another Did You Know? Barenpark has an expansion that adds grizzly bears and monorails, both of which are in Planet Zoo. Maybe someday we'll add them to this zoo. Maybe. We'll see. Someday, if people really, really want me to, maybe I will. It's a lot of work to do this, so I'm not sure how much more I want to work on it, but nonetheless, let me know down in the comments below if you want me to add that on here. I definitely can. Alrighty, so inside here, I really, really like this area. So this one also has a upstairs viewing area. I kept that the same between both of the Himalayan brown bear areas, but I had the idea to put this like spiral staircase in this really pretty this kind of like foresty area inside, which you can see outside on these giant windows. You can see that area, and I think it looks really nice. And then you can see into the habitat right over here. But you go up those spiral staircases and then you go up into the viewing area. Oops, too high, which is up here. Again, very, very simple. Just a bunch of benches, got some moss and stuff. And then you get a bird's eye view of the whole kind of area and all the bears and stuff down there. Now this area doesn't wrap around. I kept it the same. And again, we say, oh, look, you're visiting this tile. So this one again is just the square. It has those big windows right there, which is why I decided to put the big windows over there. And then down on this side, we just have a nice little, very dirty water. I guess I didn't put water treatment here. That's fine. And then we have a staff entrance right there. So that is the whole bottom area. Before we start moving up to the top area, again, we have another UR here. Boop, we are right here at the bottom of the lower area. So one thing about these rivers right here is if we wanted rivers to be waterfalling into a lake, they needed to be higher than everything else. And so this whole top area is higher up because it just had to be, and that's where the whole polar bear area is. So as you can see, there's a food street right here, and so we decided the way to get people up here was to do a 3-tiered food street where each square of the food street is on a different level. And so we kind of decided to do 3 different courtyards. We had this kind of like checkerboard courtyard. We have this really, I think, really pretty domed kind of courtyard that just has like a bunch of tables in here that you can eat at. And then we have this kind of foresty one that's just a whole dense forest. And inside here, there's just a bunch of nice picnic tables and a kind of nice little winding path. And again, there's just like 60 food places. But you can see the food street is right here, and it's just tiered like that. And I actually think this worked really well, and it was a really good way of getting up here, because otherwise I don't know how we would have gotten up here. And so actually ended up working out all right. Okay, and the last area here is going to be the polar bear area. So you can see in this one, we actually decided to put the tiles together. So this is a polar bear house and a polar bear enclosure put next to each other. So we're like, you know what we could do is just make this all one incredibly massive habitat. So in this area, we used some of these like broken down ships and put a whole bunch of this stuff as kind of a broken down area, because this area is so big, I just didn't really know what to do. And then inside it's just very, very snowy. And then over here, I built a really, really huge, massive igloo. And this igloo is their sleeping quarters. So this is where they sleep. This is where they get to hang out. And they have this like really giant igloo with this kind of glass front. And oh, I'm missing a thing right there. I don't know where that went. And then there is just an incredible amount of water here. And this kind of worked out perfectly because we needed water to supply the rivers that go down here into the lake. And then we're like, oh, this can be the lake at the top. And so it's pretty simple. Again, it's mostly water, which is how it is on those tiles. So again, the area is kind of simple, but there is something I wanted to do and I wanted to try, and that was to make an underwater tunnel. And so there actually is one. Underwater here, there is a tunnel that guests and staff can walk through, and they will walk down here, which is pretty darn cool. And so, yeah, there's an underwater tunnel. Boom. And even though it still kind of thinks you're underwater, which is why you see that switch and it looks kind of murky because it thinks we're underwater. But again, people can walk down here. It's this kind of weird glitch that happens in the game. You're not really supposed to be able to do this. The game doesn't really like it when you do. But nonetheless, yeah, you can walk down here, and when the polar bears are swimming, you can see them from down here, which is I think is super, super cool. And yeah, you just kind of like wander your way through. Hope you're not claustrophobic, because this would be real scary. And then we have a little TV that has some information again about the polar bear. And then we come up here and it brings us out on this side, and we are on the other side of the lake right here. And then we have another one of those thatched bathrooms, which are up here. And then we have our final "you are here" tile, and you can see you are right over here by the polar bears and by the bathroom and the massive polar bear statue. Did you know this polar bear statue was over 5,000 pieces? It was so large it had to be split in 2 parts and reassembled on site. And that is true. This thing is over 5,000 pieces, and when something is over 5,000 pieces in Planet Zoo, you can't move it all at once. So I had to split it in half and then bring it over to this zoo and then kind of like line it back up. But I wanted one of the bears to have kind of like an open mouth and being like, yas! And so I decided to do it with a polar bear because it just seemed to make the most sense for a polar bear. But this one I actually like. I think this one turned out really cool. It's huge. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's rad. I just think it's I don't know. I think the statues are pretty cool. I like them a lot. And that's it. That's the whole zoo. There's not much else to say, at least in this video. So again, if you want a much more in-depth look on how I did stuff and me talking about how I did stuff, please go and check out the video over on our Patreon. Again, it is free for everyone. But that is Barenpark, the zoo in Planet Zoo. If you want to walk around this zoo, it is in the Steam Workshop, and so you can check it out there. There'll be a link down in the description below. But thank you so much for checking out Barenpark with us. This project was super ridiculous and super, super fun. And I really appreciate y'all watching it. Make sure to like this video and please share it around. And make sure to subscribe while you're here. And that's going to be it for me. My name is Nick Murphy, and thank you so much for checking out Barenpark Zoo.